Hey guys, welcome back to the Pulling Curls podcast. Today on episode 85, we're talking about stress. And it's something that I really didn't notice till, 15 years into my nursing career, just how stress really affects the baby at delivery. So let's untangle it. Welcome to the Pulling Curls podcast. I'm Hillary, your curly-headed host on the podcast where we untangle everything from pregnancy, parenting, and home routines. I want you to know that there are no right answers for every family, and I find that simplifying my priorities is almost always the answer. It's tangled, just like my hair. Okay, guys, before we get started, make sure you're subscribed. And while you're subscribing, don't forget to leave a review. Really helps other people find us, and I really appreciate it. Okay, so I remember the delivery I was in. The patient was just losing her mind, which is 100% fine, totally prepared for this. And honestly, because I had worked at a hospital that did not have a lot of epidurals initially, I was very used to this type of delivery. But just screaming, very out of control. I was doing my best to keep her under control, but there's only so much you can do. Didn't have a lot of family support, all that kind of jazz. So baby comes out and is just like unamused. Does not want to breathe, does not want to do anything. It was just like how I would feel after I'd run a marathon. I would lay down on the grass and wish that God would take me home, right? Like, I could just tell that this baby was just pooped out. And I realized that it had gotten all those same hormones from mom. But at the same point, it's just this little tiny person who has not dealt with that type of stress before. So let's talk a little bit about stress and how it can affect you both during pregnancy and also then we'll circle back to at delivery. Do you feel prepared for your delivery? In just 3 short hours, you can be prepared for the confident, collaborative delivery you want. You'll know what to expect and how to talk with your healthcare team, and there are no boring lessons in this class. I'll use humor, stories from my 20 years in the delivery room to engage both of you. I love how Alyssa told me that she found herself laughing at things that used to sound scary. Most of all, you guys are going to be on the same page from bump to bassinet. Join the online prenatal class for couples today. You can save 15% with coupon code UNTANGLED. You can find the link in the show notes. So some stress during pregnancy is really important. Your baby needs to experience those types of hormones while it's in the womb because it will have those types of hormones when it comes out. So small periods of stress though, you have a stressful bill that you need to take care of, or there's stressful moments at work. I kind of enjoy some stressful moments at work just because it keeps me on my toes and stuff like that. So those types of things are great for when you have a baby inside of you. Okay, so short-term stress, small stressors are great. They're good for you. They're good for the baby. Everyone has them. There's no way to avoid them in general. The problem is the longer term stress. If you're in a relationship that is sucking the life out of you or in a domestic violence relationship, side note, if you are pregnant and in a domestic violence relationship, reach out. There are a lot of people willing to help you get out of that relationship so that you and baby are in a safe place. But a super stressful long-term work environment, that's not so great. So we're thinking longer term stressful. And COVID could kind of go into those depending on how you're handling COVID, all of the things that came with it. It could be a long-term stressor. Now, as I said, a lot of it is how you're handling it. So a lot of people have very stressful lives, but they deal with it very well. Inside, they're doing fine. They're able to sleep. They're able to do their what we call activities of daily living without much interference by the stressful things. So that's something to keep in mind because a lot of times people will be like, oh, that's so stressful, when in reality, you're like, oh, I love it. I thrive off of that kind of stuff. And if that's the case, that you're sleeping and you're able to do all those things in a stressful environment, then that is fine. Because stress can cause things like decreased sleep. And that's not great for the baby. If you're not sleeping because of the stressful thing, changes in eating habits. Either you're eating more, not great for the baby, or you're eating less because you're stressed out, also not great for the baby. If the stress is causing things like this, then you got to think, oh, this is handling the bigger picture in this point. It can increase your blood pressure. Obviously, we know that people who lead a very stressful life can have higher blood pressure. If I'm running from a bear, and I had a blood pressure cuff on, which, I hope I don't run away from a bear with a blood pressure cuff on, it would be very high because I'm stressed out and blood is coursing through your body and your body is made to increase your blood pressure at that time so that you can make decisions and actions that will keep you alive from said bear. Now I'm just envisioning myself running away from a bear with a blood pressure cuff on. So There you go. Another thing I was looking when I was kind of researching this topic is a lot of times people turn to their vices when they are in serious stressful times. So that could be smoking, it could be drinking, it could be, marijuana's so legal anymore. It could be those types of things. So side note, if you're thinking about taking marijuana or considering it, I do have a post on what usually happens in the hospital if you were to take marijuana. So you could check that out. I'll put the link in the show notes. So by turning to these vices, obviously these are not super healthy things. Like if your vice is going on walks and deep breathing, then that is an okay vice. But if your vice is smoking, especially during pregnancy, we would like you to limit that. So that's something to think about. So when you have these long-term stressors, studies show that it increases your chances of having a premature baby, which means they're born before 37 weeks, or having a low birth weight baby, which means that they weigh less than 5 pounds, 8 ounces. So, and you got to think that all of that is happening because there's probably less blood flow or less adequate blood flow to the baby during the pregnancy because you're trying to run all of these other different things, increasing your blood pressure and those kind of things. And then if you're eating wrong or all those other things, you can just have more complications. So that's just something to consider. Now, they are always like, oh, it can cause PAH. Now, it can increase your blood pressure, and which can increase your incidence of PAH, preeclampsia. But in general, stress isn't going to cause PAH because it's something that's growing along with a baby from the very beginning. So that's something to consider. Now, if your blood pressure is high, that's definitely something to talk with your doctor about, but it may not be PAH. Sometimes it's just high blood pressure, which is different than preeclampsia. So something to talk with your provider about. Okay, so back to stress at delivery, because delivery is obviously a very stressful time. It is basically your body running away from a bear with a blood pressure cuff on. Now the picture is much more vivid because I've obviously seen that. So you got to think if you are going through these super stressful times and you're not in control, you're feeling like you're running away from that bear instead of feeling like I can do this, I can handle this. Baby's feeling that too, and then they come out and they're just super tired. So how do we prevent you from feeling so very out of control, running away from a bear during your delivery? I just came up with a few things that you guys can do to really try and keep that type of stress right before baby is born at bay. Obviously, I would recommend taking a pain management class. So some people feel this type of stress even with an epidural in because they're expecting that epidural to work 100% and they're still feeling some pain and they might be feeling some anxiety over what's coming. So understanding what the pain management options are going to do for you can be really helpful. I recommend understanding that. And of course, I go over all of that a lot in my prenatal class. But you can also take something more like Hypno Babies, where you're kind of putting yourself in a self-hypnosis that you can handle the pain better. And honestly, man, if Hypno Babies had been more available and online, because I didn't really have time to go to classes in the Bay Area back in the day, but if it had been more available, I really would have done it. And I think it would have been helpful with the old teenagers right about now. So I'm a big fan of Hypno Babies. In fact, I'm such a fan of it. I give my class 50% off if you take Hypno Babies. I'll put all of the links to all that in the show notes. At least that's what I do currently at this time. So check out the link in the show notes. This is episode 85, Stress at Delivery. The other thing I think is important is to have a frank discussion about this with your partner or whoever is coming into the birth room with you. So just say if they feel like you're getting out of control, because a lot of women are like, do not offer me the epidural, do not talk about the epidural, and I think that that's unfair to you because, if you don't know what your labor is going to be like. And by not even offering or discussing the epidural at all with your partner or your birth team, that's doing you a disservice because there may come a point in time where you really need it. And I think that that is true of every mom. I know I see moms on TikTok who are like, I did it so natural because I did XYZ. And I think, but your baby came out in a mere number of hours. If you're going in, you have to have an early induction because of things that are going on with your body. You're fighting an uphill battle and you're going to be more tired than that. And so I just think it's something to talk about with your partner in advance. I don't want an epidural. I would like to not talk about the epidural, but if you're noticing that I seem out of control, let's have like a safe word or something where you say, honey, I think it's something that you should consider because we don't want the baby to have this type of stress on them before it comes out. Because again, it's a lot easier to feel like you're running away from a bear in labor if you first off have no idea what's going on, which is why you should take a prenatal class, but also you haven't had any sleep. You're super uncomfortable. Nothing's making it better. And it's just going on and on and on. That's why I think it's good to have a supportive partner who understands that you don't want to be out of control. If you're feeling in control and all that type of things, at least they can bring it up. Be like, hey, babe, how are you feeling right now? Are you feeling in control? Do you feel like this is something you can keep handling? And have that type of discussion. And again, whatever pain management option you choose in labor is just a pain management option that you choose in labor. There are no prizes. There's no victory for getting an epidural or not getting an epidural. It's just making it through that point in time. Because I promise that getting an epidural or not getting an epidural is not the worst parenting choice you're ever going to make. Not by a long shot. There are a lot of other things you'll do as a parent that you'll be like, oh, that probably wasn't a great choice. But you don't know this in advance and you're trying to keep your baby perfect. So just some ideas about stress at delivery. I think a lot of people feel like that as long as they can just make it to get that baby out, that they've done a great job by not getting an epidural, when in reality, if they're just too out of control, maybe that's not doing their baby a huge service when it comes out. Anyway, just some thoughts. I would 100% recommend getting a prenatal class though, because I always say like, it's like riding a roller coaster in the dark if you have no idea what's coming up. I mean, I love Space Mountain as much as the next person, but I wouldn't want to do it if I didn't know that I was going to get back there safely. And you have fears and stuff like that during labor. So I always recommend just kind of having an idea of what's coming up. And that's what a prenatal class totally does. It gives you just an idea of what to expect as you go in. People love my class. I'll put a link to all of the reviews. I think I have hundreds of reviews at this time of people. You'll see a few 4-star reviews, but most people give it 5. They're coming directly from the people and I love them. They're like one of my favorite things when they land in my inbox. But people love my class because it really just prepares them in a quick, fun, informative nature. And I think it's going to prepare you to have less stress at delivery. Thanks so much for joining us today. I hope we helped smooth out a few of the snarls in your life. We drop an episode every Monday and we always appreciate it when you guys share and review. Until next time, we hope you have a tangle-free day.